Gory, what a hell of a way to die. Gory, gory, what a hell of a way to die. Gory, gory, what a hell of a way to die. He ain't gonna jump no more. Zoom, zoom.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of What a Hell of a Way to Die. It is me, it is Nate. Nate managed to smuggle himself back into England past the Brexit bobbies and back home. I assume he hasn't been frantically IMing me from Ireland or anything. So Nate, how's it going?
That's the funny thing. That's the funny thing. So we flew back in through Ireland. We flew from Newark to Dublin and then Dublin to London. And this is the second time I've done this trip. One time this way. Before we flew into Gatwick Airport, which is in like pretty far south of here, and then this time we flew into London City Airport, which is legitimately like not in the city of London, obviously, but like way closer to like the London urban area than the other airports. And both times you clear customs in Dublin, and it's like, but because you're going through the connecting flight terminal, you clear customs in like what I might describe as the most perfunctory way. You know, they check your passports. They didn't really care about Cynthia's biometric card for residents in the UK. They don't check your carry-on bags at all. And then you just go into the terminal and you fly. And so it was actually completely chill compared to what I thought it was going to be. But also bear in mind, the EU approved an extension to the Brexit deadline. So October 31st was not Brexit Day. So that made things a little bit different, obviously. But things are fine, you know?
I just always assume the British are trying to keep people out that don't sound like them. Like, because you still obviously have a very American accent, but you have picked up like British affectations. And I imagine you code switch
Oh, really?
a little bit.
Which ones were those?
Well, I just imagine, like you trying to, like, oh God. Because look, here's the thing. Everybody feels nervous talking, like having to go through customs or whatever. Like just a little bit. Even if you got nothing. Because it's a fucking, you're looking at somebody who, like, if they, if their kids were shitty that day, they can make your day shitty in a heartbeat. So there's always that, like, I'm speaking to a person who has power over me, and I have nothing. I can do nothing about it. So I just imagine you being like, "Oh well, mate. Hopefully they got the my flatmates got the bins out while I was gone, huh?" And then them just being like,
Well,
"All right, you got to go in the back to get beaten."
To be fair, I was going through customs in the Republic of Ireland and not in Britain. And so in that regard, being a guy with an English or British passport who has an American accent, it's probably better for me to play up my Americanness and be like, oh, wow, what a weird coincidence that I just happened to be also eligible for this British passport, as opposed to trying to play up any affectations of Englishness because it's the Irish and they're going to be like, get the fuck out, you blacks and tans. So the thing that I would say, though, is that it's strange because going back into the UK through Heathrow, where you fly directly into the UK, or through Gatwick or Stansted, or I presume Luton. That's the one London airport I've never flown through. If you're an EU or a UK citizen, you just go to a passport scanner, and it's pretty chill. Like, unless the scanner has a hard time reading your passport, you don't even talk to a person at customs. You just scan your passport, it takes a photo, and then it opens the gate for you, and then you go to baggage claim. Like, imagine coming back into America and it being like that. That'd be incredible. It's never easy coming back into America. But if you're not a UK or EU passport holder, they're pretty, it's a pretty long line. They're pretty rigorous. Like, they definitely question you a bunch. And so it's weird to me because obviously I should raise some flags, not in a really bad way, but you hear me talk and you're like, okay, this guy's clearly not British, but his passport says British citizen. But it doesn't really happen at all. Like I said, flying through Dublin into the UK, you basically go through the most like incredibly, it's just not high pressure immigration thing where they check your passports. You go into like the terminal, and then you fly into the UK, and it's a domestic arrival, so there's no more screening. I will also say this: if you fly out of Dublin back to the US, there is a US Customs and Border Protection like entry clearance station in the Dublin airport, which is weird because you go to it and there's a big picture on the fucking wall of Donald Trump, and like the head of whoever CBP is this week because it's always changing. So that's a little disconcerting because like people who are not American are flying back in, and for them to like get cleared into customs, they're like, wait a minute, I'm in Ireland. Why the fuck is there a picture of Donald Trump? But technically, I guess it's American soil. So
Goddamn right it is, motherfucker.
But anyway, the point being here is that you do that, you clear through it, and it was amazing because then you land in America and you land like it's just a domestic flight. Like our flight into JFK from Dublin landed next to, in the gate next to like a flight from New Orleans. So that made it super easy coming. That's the only time it's ever been easy for me coming back into America. Like every other time, it's always fucking high pressure. It's always really long lines. They're always huge assholes to people. And it's just, it's so weird to come here, which is, I mean, the EU is, no borders internally and incredibly racist and militarized borders externally. And Britain obviously got if you're racist, the best of both worlds in that it gets all the economic benefits of the EU, but it's not in the Schengen zone. So you can't just show up in Britain without going through passport control. It's weird how even in a place that xenophobic and that incredibly hostile to people from the outside, it's that chill. Like it's so chill coming back that like, if you only have an EU passport and your passport always scans fine, it's possible that you could fly into the UK and never talk to somebody, like not talk to any entry clearance officer at all. Which, well, I mean, imagine that in America.
You're also a ginger, so, I mean, I'm sure that they look at you and it's like, that guy's like super white, so let him go quickly.
It's like...
That's the genetics we want here. We want the redhead pasty
Get him out of these harsh UV lights. He's gonna get skin cancer. Yeah, man. I mean, it was weird. It was weird being back in America. I adjusted pretty quickly. It was weird being back in New York.
How's the subway smell?
The same. Yeah, man, it was weird. I to be honest with you, the best way I could describe it is I'm reminded of all the things I miss, and I'm reminded of all the things that made my life way more stressful when I lived there. And it's nice to be able to go back to New York and be like, oh, all the things I enjoy, and none of the horrible things that I hated. So in that regard, it was fun. It was nice being back. And, I miss America in some ways. In other ways, I don't at all. So, life goes on. But, unlike people who come here for like high-powered fucking insane finance jobs and complain about how the NHS isn't like their, platinum tier health insurance back in America. I don't know. I found living in Britain to be really easy and really just like generally chill. So, going back to New York was like it was like ratcheting that pressure. Like I felt the effects of moving here, and my life was somehow just so much less stressful. And then going back and you're like, yeah, this place is like a fucking pressure cooker. This is really, really intense compared to what I've become accustomed to.
Yeah. I wanted to ask, what do you do for health and like, do you buy health insurance, like travel insurance, and that takes care of you if you like break a leg or something while you're in America, but you're not American? Or at least,
I mean, if you're living there for a period of time, I suppose you could. For me, at least, like I'm covered in the sense that if something were to happen to me, I would just I would ask to go to the VA hospital.
Okay, that makes sense.
I'm a VA because I'm enrolled in the VA. I've been treated at the Manhattan VA. They have all my records there, and so if I needed to, we didn't really have that discussion as far as for Cynthia. I think honestly, what we'd probably have to do is like, if Cynthia was ill or unwell, we'd have to just go to urgent care in America, and then hopefully it would be stabilized enough that she could then go and get treatment once we got back to Britain. Because I mean, as her visa, her current visa is valid. She's paid her NHS surcharge, so she's entitled to NHS care. And basically, once you're like entry cleared in the UK with and you've got like your documents and stuff, they never ask you for payment, and they never even really ask you to substantiate them. Like there have been plenty of cases of like elderly, basically what they call Windrush generation people who are primarily immigrants from the Caribbean, and they moved here on their parents' passports, but they've been living here their entire lives. They just may not have documentation because when their parents, were young and they moved to the UK, you didn't. Your kids could travel on your passport, and also they were British citizens. But then they changed the immigration laws and decided these people, ex post facto, they decided to start trying to deport all these people. And they've been like saying, oh, you're not eligible for cancer treatment because you can't prove you're a citizen, even though you've been living and working in this country your entire adult life. So obviously, like, there's some fuckery, and I'm not going to say, oh, the NHS is wonderful because they don't do, because there's lots of documented evidence of them seeking to discriminate against people and demand proof of citizenship before they can see a doctor. I'm just saying, for me, and maybe this is because people are racist, walking in, speaking like an American, no one's ever asked me to show a passport to prove my residency. And Cynthia's told me she hasn't either. Like, she always comes with all of her stuff, with her passport, her biometric residence permit, proof of address. I do too. I show up with my passport, my address, everything, and they've never once asked me. They kind of laughed at me when I did my pre-surgery consultation that I had my passport with me. I was just like, it's literally my only proof of ID that shows that I'm legally allowed to be in this country.
Well, we're glad that that you're back in the fold of the Mother Queen, with the Queen Mother,
Christ.
whichever.
Yeah, well, just December 12th, it's really going to determine whether or not I'm in this shit for the long haul, or whether I got to start making alternative arrangements elsewhere, because that's when the date of the general election. So obviously, putting in all the effort I can to support Jezza and get Labor elected, but we'll see. I have a cautious hope, cautious optimism, but in the next 6 weeks, it's going to get extra real.
Yeah, you should have gotten dual citizenship. I know this is from your mother, but if you could choose like a dual citizenship, like I wouldn't choose England because it's it's like it's dumb as America, but with silly voices. I can't imagine where I'd want to go. Maybe like Nate, what country isn't on fire right now? Is there a country not on fire right now? Maybe Ecuador? Would that be?
I mean, Ecuador is pretty cool. I think if you were going to have dual citizenship, I think having dual citizenship with an EU country is really helpful. Like, a friend of mine, his parents are from Macau, and because they were born in Macau when it was still a Portuguese colony, they, and thus he, are entitled to Portuguese citizenship. And so he was able to get a Portuguese passport, even though he'd never been to Portugal. And because it's an EU passport, he's able to work in France for a while. And he's back in the US now, but what's up, Jasper? He was a guest on the show actually once. But he was able to work in wherever he wanted to in Europe, in the European Union, because of having an EU passport. So, I mean, like, in terms of opening up opportunities for you to do stuff, I think if you could get a passport that has passporting, free movement rights with other parts of the world, that's super helpful. As far as like countries that are chill as hell, I mean, I don't know, man. Like, it's hard to pick, because when you pick a country and you say, oh, this place sounds chill as hell, in a way you kind of reveal what's important to you. Like, if somebody turns to me and they say, where I want to live? I want to live in the country that I think is perfect, Iceland. It's like, well, there's a lot about Iceland that is good. There's also a lot about Iceland that appeals to Nazis. So, which is it? Which is it?
I think Nazis just like the runes. Like, it would be like
well,
saying...
also because it's 200,000 people or 300,000 people in that country, and basically 99% of them are white.
Yeah. It's like saying... Yeah. Right. It's like saying, oh, if only we could, emulate Norway. And it's like, they have like an isle, like a racism island, right? Where they just put
that's Denmark, I think. I think that's Denmark. But Denmark is another one where people in America love to be like, why can't we just be like Denmark? It's like, Denmark passed a law that they have mandatory kindergarten for 6-month-olds that they only apply to people who live in zip codes that are majority non-white, where they literally abduct your children for 20 hours a week to make them eat Danish food. And then you have to pay them a bill in a country where the social safety net is supposed to be free. You have to pay them for the privilege of them abducting your children and pay for like diapers and snacks and food.
Hell yeah.
Because
that's what we call ethnic cleansing.
I mean, they Denmark, and the thing about it is with Denmark is that when you talk about this stuff, it's only a very small number of people, some Danish but majority outside of Denmark, who are like, God, that's so fucked up. The really bad thing is, Danish people are just like, yeah, but we just want to make sure that they all integrate normally into our society. And then if you talk to people who are not from Denmark and see it, they're like, oh, this is so good. Why don't we do this? We need to abduct people's infants and make them go to re-education camps. This is really good for integration. So what's so frightening is that I think in a way you enter into this age where all of these things that people used to say were politically impossible because they would be poison pills that would sink people's electoral viability. All of that has been proven to be kind of like, it was like kayfabe all along. Like, you had to do the racism just subtly enough. That was what people believed. But then, in the last decade, we've seen them turn full bore racist, both in America, in Britain, in Australia, basically everywhere that's was settled by European settlers, and it's gone over fine. It hasn't really upended the political calculus, and that's the really sad thing.
What we need to do is just create our own country. We need to carve out a piece of somewhere. Canada, maybe. They got plenty of land up there that nobody's using.
Oh, Jesus. Well, that's the thing with Canada is so funny about it is that I think you're starting to see how, 10 years ago, if you were to point at Canada and say to Americans, like, I want America to be like Canada, they're like, that's socialist madness. We'll never be like them. Whereas now it's strange because of I think the after effects of the economic crisis and the sheer horror of Donald Trump's presidency. You're seeing people express a political desire for stuff that goes way further to the left than what Canada does.
Oh yeah,
and that's great. That's great because Canada is it's a neoliberal country. It just happens to have socialized medicine, and it happens to be more, putting this in, emphasizing that this is a qualifier that doesn't make it an absolute. It projects, and at least to my opinion, seems to be slightly more welcoming towards refugees and immigrants than America is at present. But every alt-right media Nazi seems to be from Canada. And obviously you have they didn't do very well, but you had a new party in the Canadian political system who literally ran on one of their advertising slogans was like defeat Antifa. So yeah. It's not all bread and roses up there. And so the point I'm trying to make here is that it's very strange to see how, on one hand, the normalization of all this hell world stuff has gone over without it really changing the levels of electoral support these people enjoy. I think if you remember, there was a congressman I think it was a congressman or a senator. It was a long time ago, but he was running as a Republican, and a guy who was from his opponent's campaign came to one of this guy's rallies and was filming him, which is a normal thing. It's annoying, I'm sure, but it's a normal thing for someone to film you as opposition research. And unless you've declared it illegal or whatever, which I don't know how they can't really stop them. So this guy decides to start heckling the cameraman, who was I think he was South Asian, or he was of South Asian descent, and he started calling him macaca, which is
God, I remember that, yeah.
Which is basically like calling him a monkey, and it wound up sinking this guy's campaign, and he wound up having to quit the race, as I understand it. But think about all of the Donald Trump saying that Jews who don't support him are disloyal. Donald Trump saying that people at Charlottesville who were marching around with tiki torches were very fine people.
Well, the problem...
John McCain's getting sunk by Karl Rove because they do a robocall in South Carolina saying that his daughter that they adopted from abroad is actually his mixed race baby from a scandalous marriage relationship with a black woman, and nobody does anything about it.
That's because people are into that though. The thing is that our racism, people say that racism has gotten better. In America, because things are progressing, and in some ways, yes, but mostly I feel like racism has just shifted, and we're just we just need somebody to hate. White Americans need somebody to be mad at all the time, and it's not as cool to hate black people anymore. So now we have to hate on somebody else, and the macaca thing, that's just some outright racism.
I was gonna say, where the fuck, who the fuck? I wouldn't even know what that meant if it hadn't been explained to me by the news.
Right, that's some old school. That guy had to have some deep ingrained racism going on to be what's that guy, Southeastern, and then go through the mental Rolodex of slurs in his head, just be what do I call this guy to piss him off? I was gonna say, to your point with Trump, he does all of those things, but normal people are horrified by it, but he just has a base that's really into it, and that's what he feeds off of. He doesn't have any shame of just saying, because look at his most ardent supporters. Look at Ben Shapiro, who would agree that a Jewish Democrat is not a real Jew. He has literally said things along those lines. Doing the No True Scotsman for Jews and Democrats, and people they're just like, yeah, that's right. I agree with that. And so like you and me who are just like, this is fucking horrifying that he's just saying these things and people are cheering. But when you surround yourself by people who are going to cheer no matter what the fuck you say because they're just as shitty and racist and they want the power just as much as you do, then you don't get the shame. And of course, Trump has no ability to feel shame or feel like
Yeah. And also, I want to take 2 points. For one, I want to kind of contest the thing you said previously, because I think that I think that anti-black racism is like the cornerstone of racism in America, and I think that it's always there, and like no matter what shifts in American political developments, that's always going to be there because it's like what this country was founded on.
Absolutely.
But I also think that it's there was this expectation that if people expressed overt racism, that it would be, it would lead to their, I don't know, expulsion from public life, and it seems that is no longer. That people, it's not that was ever really the case. It was more that people actually kind of entertained that notion. And so, they would be the people around them who do the shunning would actually shun them to some extent, not to a great extent, but to some extent. And it feels like the consequences for not shunning those people have disappeared. Like there's zero. But also I would say that,
well, I was going to say to that, it is, and obviously I'm saying this as a white dude. I got no real experience in a lot of this, but I feel like a lot of it was not only being shunned, but being afraid of being shunned. And being like, if I say these things, I'm going to get yelled at, and I don't want to get yelled at and fired from my job or anything like that. And now it's like, oh, I said these things, and then I got yelled at, and I got fired from my job. Here's my GoFundMe, and then they make $250,000 because of other hooting fucking MAGA chuds who are just like, yeah, there's no reason why I shouldn't be able to say that word too. So here's $20 because you got fired, and I did well selling my third boat today. So I'll give you a little of that extra.
It's been
money.
a good month at my jet ski dealership.
Right.
Here's some racism dollars. Get hired at the racism factory. I think about this too. That I think that the two things that really, you and I were already on the track to being socialists. I mean, I think I identified as a socialist from pretty early on. I had trouble with expressing it, and I think I was also kind of like okay with what you might describe as like liberal kind of centrist compromises until it just became obvious to me that wasn't ever going to work, that it wasn't going to solve the problem ever, because those would just be, temporary meeting points, and then the far right would show up and undo everything and shift the Overton window. And so I think that obviously, I'm speaking for myself here, but I presume it's the same for you, that Trump getting elected was kind of like the final nail in the coffin as far as radicalizing me, because I realized that liberal centrism was never going to work. But I would say that even though my brain has been irreversibly broken by the experience of Trump winning, I'd like to think that I'm able to keep certain things in perspective. But I think Obama becoming president, getting reelected, and then the emergence of the Black Lives Matter, what they call the movement for Black Lives, in his second term, made so many Facebook boomers, and to be fair, Gen Xers and millennials, completely melt their brains into like molten slurry. And as such, it has created this profound, like, anything I do is, to own the libs, basically I identify with someone who's going to make me not feel bad again. Donald Trump is my hero. Like, I think you can draw a line between Facebook outrage to Obama being president and the movement for Black Lives, with this kind of like, if not the alt-right Pepe kind of shit, then at least the incredible, just deep-seated, insane resentment. Like whenever the New York Times does like a soft focus profile of people in Minnesota complaining about immigrants, or in Pennsylvania complaining about immigrants, or in Indiana complaining about how the damn libs have too many genders, or whatever the fuck, it's always this kind of inchoate resentment that they can't really articulate. They certainly can't provide examples for. It's just It's just those, the black people and the damn libs complaining too much, basically. That's what's made them so mad that they're like, I don't care if you've bankrupted my jet ski dealership, President Trump. You're my God King. You're my daddy. Let me do racism. I love you. Like those folks who showed up at that rally in 2015 that everybody was making into a meme about, like the crazy, like wide-eyed, just fucking, hysterical, looking like some kind of death cult people in Alabama, like holding out babies and just like grinning in a way that looked like it had been photoshopped. And the woman holding the sign that said, thank you, Lord Jesus, for President Trump. Like those folks weren't play acting. That's the shit they believe in. And the more racist he got, the more they were into it. So, I don't know. I just, in a way, I look at that stuff and I think, bringing it back to sort of the point here, number one, no matter what happens in America, no matter what immigrant groups become assimilated to the point where they can become white, no matter what, how the prejudices change, in the sense that, the Klan used to do a heavy amount of recruiting in opposition to Catholics, and the Klan's still around and they don't really care that much about Catholics anymore. But that used to be a thing 100 years ago. That was a huge thing for them. So no matter how those shifts happen in America, the one thing that will always underpin it is that they will always be racist against black people. And they will do everything they can to pit other ethnic groups, other immigrant groups, minorities, et cetera, against black people. So that's point number one. And I feel like failure to grasp that and failure to acknowledge that sets you up to make a lot of, that means your baseline is incorrect, and then the rest of your extrapolations about America and American politics are going to be wrong. And the second point is, I think we're past the point of logic and rationale when it comes to this current generation of just insane racist, like, branding my own face to own the libs people, because I think they have been in a permanent state of, I don't know, like dissociative rage since 2008 and 2012, and then the start of the movement for Black Lives in 2013, 2014 has only made them more insane. I mean, and if you don't, listeners, beloved listeners, friends of the show, fans, family, whomever, we love you and care for you deeply. We greatly appreciate your attention. If you disagree with me, which you might, which is a fair thing, I just invite you, presuming that if you disagree with me and you're white, to post something in support of Black Lives Matter on your Facebook feed. Now, you might be connected to and surrounded by a community of people that are absolutely fucking dead on, understand the truth, and are, generally understanding of the ways in which America has been based on racism since its founding, since before it became a country. And maybe people will be like, hell yeah, we support you, we support this is true. However, chances are very good that if you do this, it'll be like the scene in the Two Towers where they just like dig fucking millions of urukai out of the goddamn mud, and they all just emerge to start howling at you. That is what will happen. Why? Why is that? Your guess is as good as mine.
Looks like racism is back on the menu, boys.
Hell yeah. Anyway, so we wanted to talk about people who it's fun. It's fun to go on these kind of derails.
You and I haven't talked in like 2 weeks, so it's nice. It's nice to chat and yell about some stuff. So
we found another stupid article that thinks that you can overcome the all of the problems with military recruiting in the face of an endless war, and the fact that the economy is at present pretty strong relative to its low points in the last decade and a half. This new article thinks that you can overcome this recruiting deficiency by allowing people in the military to have beards.
Look, I don't like shaving every day, but also
same.
But also, I do shave on a regular basis. I shave now because that's what my wife likes. She doesn't like me to be all scratchy, so I get it now. But also in the military, I understand that there's this push. Because what happens? Everybody gets out of the military. What do? They get fat or they get really muscular. There's no in between. Either you gain a bunch of weight and fat or gain a bunch of weight and muscle, and then you grow a huge beard, and then you start a t-shirt store. I personally have started to get fat and started the t-shirt store before I got out of the Army, so I'm one of those people who's ahead of the curve. But, there's just like all kinds of weird standards that we continue to have in the military that like make no sense to me. Like the shaving thing. Like we allow people in the army, like the captain or major who's of Sikh faith and has a Sikh beard, and they're like, yeah, come on in. We'll even let you have a multicam turban to wear. We're very inclusive of this. Then any other sergeant or private, it's just like, can I have that beard? And like, no, oh no, you can't do that. What if we get gas attacked? Then you would never. What would you do? And the article that I read is that we haven't really had to worry about like getting gas attacked since literally World War One, when gas attacks were happening constantly. So like the whole pro-mask seal thing, not really an argument to be having anymore. But also the Sikh major showed, yes, I can seal my mask with my beard. He's got a big beard too, man. It's big and bushy. It's not like some small wispy goatee like I would grow. So it just makes no sense, and it made me think about like other because I saw a picture of some YPJ women fighters, and they all had like braids and ponytails and whatnot, and a lot of the women soldiers on Twitter just being like, why the fuck can't we have this? Why do I have to have this ridiculous sock bun that is it's just like, imagine. Man, we're guys and we're in the military, so we've always had short hair. But it's like, to me, it sounds like, imagine somebody just like grabs your hair and pulls it, and it's like that's just 12 hours of your day with this rolled up sock bun in the back. And,
or you can cut your hair short and have dudes fucking make jokes about you all the time because they presume that if you have short hair, that is some statement about your sexuality or your sexual availability.
Right. I got, and nothing to be like, look, man, you have short hair because, and it, like for me, I have short hair and I'll probably continue to have short hair even out of the military because I don't want to fuck with my hair. Like it's just a thing I don't want to have to deal with. So cut it short and move on with my day. So, it just kind of made me think of like what other dumb things could we get rid of to like really keep people in the military? Because we're not going to get rid of the war, Nate. That's never going away. We're never going to get, like, oh, what if we stopped, subjugating people overseas and stopped doing war in 12 different countries and bombing poor people? No, fuck that. We're never doing that. That's never going to be what we do because we are the U.S. Army, and if there's one thing in this world that we are, it's unable to be taught. No matter what, we are unable to learn from past mistakes, and we never will learn from them. So, I'm trying to help the Army retention, so we can get rid of let dudes grow beards, let women wear ponytail. Women can wear ponytails during PT now, and that was a big step. But it also reminds me of like when, like, I don't know, we're just so conditioned in the Army to be like to never win. Like, I mean, on a personal level, right? Like I will always have a boot ground into my neck from above. So, like, when the one sergeant major of the Army, I can't remember which one it was, and somebody was like, well, could we wear black socks with PT? And he's like, I don't give a flying fuck. Sure, whatever. Just wear black socks during PT. I don't care. And, like, everybody was like, oh, wow, we can wear black socks at PT now. We can, such freedom, such worlds that are opening up in front of us. And, like, recently there was, I don't remember who did it, but somebody was just like, there's no reason for us to be wearing PT belts everywhere. You don't have to do that unless it's command destruction. Oh God, we're such freedom, such worlds ahead of us, Nate. I
mean, I look at it this way, man. I didn't have a beard. I got out of the Army and I didn't have a beard for 4 years before I decided to grow one. I mean, having a beard's cool, but like if I had to cut my beard tomorrow, whatever. I mean, life goes on. I mean, I think I look better with one than without one, but it's fine. I mean, if I needed to cut it, I would. They also said there are a lot of folks who said they would have not gotten out, or they would have gone in the military if Don't Ask, Don't Tell had been repealed and they could serve openly. I mean, I've obviously got some, bisexual man. Like, obviously for me, it made my life a lot easier to not have to worry about whether or not anything from, anyone I've dated in the past or anybody that I was dating in the future was going to affect my military career. But by the time that I decided to get out of the Army, it didn't matter. Like, I didn't quit because I was like, I really want to have a beard. Just as I wouldn't have quit if they hadn't repealed Don't Ask, Don't Tell, just because I really wanted to be open about my sexuality. I quit because the war sucked and the Army was horrible, and it was just like a machine grinding people down that there was no attention paid to both whether or not we were long-term going to accomplish anything that we set out to accomplish in these countries, and win and get out. There was no intention of winning or at least ending the wars. And the conditions in which you were placed, as a soldier, as an officer to some extent, but most certainly as an enlisted soldier, you just found yourself with, shitty gear and stuff falling apart and, $1 million defense contractor doodads that you didn't need, but black mold in your barracks and, HVAC systems in your Humvees that didn't work and things along those lines. And so I think the idea that I'm sure there are some people who, when they made their decision to leave, would have been swayed by the argument of, oh, we'll let you grow a beard. You know what I mean? I'm sure there would have been some people, but I think that number would be very small. And I think just as I don't think that, ending Don't Ask, Don't Tell has made it that much easier. I don't think it's this massive sea change in military retention, because whether or not you can be openly gay in the military is still going to suck. It's going to suck less for people who were persecuted under those policies, for sure. But that doesn't mean the military doesn't have all these other problems. And I think the thing about it is that I'm sure there are listeners listening right now for whom being able to serve openly was a massive thing, and it was crucially important. And I think that's really, really important to address. But I also think that most of those people, if they've gotten out, probably had other reasons why they wanted to get out. And to me, to my, experiences, I think the biggest one is you're constantly getting sent down range for years at a time to a war that feels like, I don't know, like running on a treadmill where every now and then someone just dies, or every now and then you have to kill someone. And so all of this just seems like you've got a massive, a water leak on your second floor, but you're very carefully trying to sculpt the plaster on the ceiling to cover up a couple of seams here and there without realizing that there's a much bigger problem.
Yeah, I was going to say, it reminds me of the meme of, that infomercial that's got the sealant, and water's rushing out, and the water is called, endless wars and terrible mental health, and suicide is more dangerous to us than actual war. And then slapping the patch on it is grow a beard.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and so we've had this other discussion in the past about, other things that they've posited that are going to be these huge turnarounds for people. They floated the idea of being able to take sabbaticals. I think for officers particularly, I think that would probably retain some people. They float around the idea of, being able to change up your career, to stay at a duty station long term. I think that would help some people. I certainly think for people who are married, if their spouses, it's hard enough to get any kind of meaningful job as a spouse in most military towns. And for those who do get them, obviously it becomes so much harder when you're obligated to move, across the country or across the world every 3 years. There are some things here and there they could do to fix it. But I think this is, I rarely talk about this because it's one of those things where politically speaking, it tends to get you in a lot of hot water. But I'll just bring this up very, very, very briefly. Years ago, there was an Occupy-style movement in Israel addressing the incredibly high cost of living in Israel. That the price of homes, the price of rentals, the price of even basic goods like desserts were just shockingly expensive. But it was remarked by commentators in Israel and also especially outside of Israel that amidst this protest, which was framed as it was, I remember correctly, it was described as social justice protests, they made a decision, or perhaps by omission, maybe they didn't even think about it, to not talk about the occupation at all. The occupation of the West Bank, by the time Gaza was no longer occupied, but the occupation of the West Bank did not factor into this at all. And it's there may be a reason that things suck in the state of Israel right now for people if the government's resources and funds and attention is all being paid to a military occupation of basically a separate territory. But that didn't come up. And it's one of those things where, to me, I felt like, all right, you might be able to patch up some problems around the edges, but you're not getting to the heart of the issue here. And similarly with the military, I think the reason why things are so bad is because we have not yet gotten out of this endless cycle of deployment. And never mind the stresses and the fractures that all of these deployments cause. There's also I don't know, like once you're deployed, once you're downrange, there's the psychological consequences of that. It's very hard to escape deployment if you're in active duty military these days. It's not as crazy as it was in, Iraq 06, 07, 08, or, Afghanistan 9, 10, 11, but it's still pretty bad. And you got a really high op tempo. And the fact of the matter is that takes a lot out of people. It doesn't surprise me that when given the choice, people leave because, other options exist.
Exactly. Like, why would you stick around? As you said, the problem isn't a beard. Nobody has gotten out of the army, and people are like, I have the freedom to grow a beard, or I have the freedom to do this thing now. But like, if a beard was what was keeping you from staying in the army, like, you have even worse reasons to be in the army than anybody. Like, I can't imagine why you joined in the first place if like I just can't stay here because I cannot grow a beard, because they will not allow me to grow a beard. And yeah, it is once again just the tone deafness of, and I think this Wall Street Journal article is an opinion. I don't think this is like official DoD policy of let's see what happens. Let's see what happens when we let soldiers grow beards. You're still going to get people that leave. You're still going to have an incredibly like shitty right-wing reactionary military overall, because you're not doing anything about like the regular day-to-day. You're not doing anything that the problems that we have, where we have like literal white supremacists in the military, unabashed, have no problem being openly white supremacists, and we don't do anything about it. Like we do. Like if somebody. The thing is that white supremacy in the military is acceptable until it becomes like something that a commander can't ignore, and then that's when,
once it's embarrassing to your chain of command, and they do something. But up until that point, they don't really care.
Right, like you and your butt, like the guy who sent him and his buddies making a swastika with their boots, and it's just like there's 4 people involved in this. What's the fuck's the matter with all of you? Like I would expect one of you to be stupid, but not all of you. So it again, like you said, there's nothing. None of this addresses actual problems. And like I said, the military does not learn from past mistakes. You would think that like after Vietnam, we would say, maybe getting involved in a guerrilla-style war against an ideology is a bad idea because it's something that we can't sustain. We can't do nation building. And every time we kill somebody, every time we kill a bad guy, like 4 more bad guys crop up. Also in Vietnam, we had this bad habit of killing our allies way more than we did killing the enemies. So, but yet here we are in Iraq and Afghanistan. After literally watching the Soviet Union collapse post-Afghanistan, and then we, fucking 10 years, 15 years later, we're just like, well, maybe we can do it. Maybe this time it's going to work. Somebody's going to finally pacify Afghanistan. It's like, these are the things like me now as somebody who, I'm not going to say I'm a historian, but as somebody who can look at history and look at the way that things have gone in the past for the U.S. military, how things have gone for, people in Afghanistan, people in Iraq, spend 20 minutes reading about Iran, and I'm not even saying, pick up a book, like just read some stuff. Go to Wikipedia and read the history of the Persian people and Iran and the wars that they've been involved in, and who was the agitator and who wasn't, and then be like, why the fuck are we fucking with these people? They're on literally the other side of the world. What are we doing? It's not like they're Canada. Like I can understand being aggressive towards Canada. They're Canadians. I mean, but they're also like right next door. Like we're constantly involved in these wars where people have like no ability to reach out and touch us. And again, we just never learn. And so it comes down to like, rather than saying, how do we fix this and how do we make this better for people to get people to join the military? And it's superficial bullshit constantly. That's all it's ever going to be. It's never going to be like, I don't know when we're going to be doing the draft. I don't think that that's going to be a thing that happens with our current operational tempo for for those of you who are not, for like how much work we're doing like overseas and everything, it's burning people out. Don't get me wrong. And we're not retaining a lot of people, and we're destroying a lot of people, like either physically or mentally or spiritually in some way, shape, or form. I don't think we're going to draft anytime soon. But boy, we start up ratcheting up our ground wars over in the Middle East. I mean, I just hope you 18-year-olds can get into community college and get them deferments like our president did, because it's not going to be good. It's not going to be good at all. We're just not going to learn. But maybe you'll get to grow a beard. So plus side, I guess.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing that I think about often is that I think for myself, if I hadn't had the experiences that obviously radicalized me pretty significantly. And if the war hadn't gone as shitty as it did, or it hadn't happened, or, I always thought I signed my ROTC scholarship when I was 19 in 2004. And I mean, this is the ignorance of youth, I suppose. I presumed that both the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan would be completely over with by the time that I started active duty, which was in 2007.
Hey man, I thought it was going to be done. I went to Afghanistan in 2004. I thought I was going to, be a part of the ending of that war because it was slowing down. And then, because also we had ratcheted up Iraq, and I'm like, well, we're going to be slowing down here and moving over there pretty soon, right? So we're going to be done here pretty soon, right? Right? Oh no, that's still.
Whoops. Some stuff happened. Yeah. So I think about this a lot. That if that had happened, who knows? Maybe I'd still be in. But I feel like I burned myself out pretty hard with the experience that I had of, deploying, staying longer than normal on the deployment, coming back, doing a non-combat forward deployment 6 months after coming back from Afghanistan. And it was weird. I think that by the time that I came back from Honduras, if I hadn't gotten selected at Special Forces selection, I absolutely would have, I don't know, found some corner to sham in. I mean, I probably would have gotten deployed again to get out of the Army.
That's what I got. Get out of my shamming corner.
Yeah, exactly. Because I just knew I wasn't going to stay in. And who knows, maybe it would have been different. But it definitely burned me out. And a lot of guys that I really respected, who I thought were great infantry officers, got out as well. And, I thought they had great careers ahead of them. But I think the burnout is real. And, you have to acknowledge, physically, mentally, emotionally, that it's not for you anymore. And and so they could let everybody have beards tomorrow. They could. What was the other dumb one that we had the other day? They could make you let you do gaming for PT. It really doesn't matter until you take away the thing that's driving the majority of the stress, the quality of life issues. What's the right word here? The kind of great big black hole that's sucking up all the energy, all the resources, for everybody who's in uniform. Until you stop that, this stuff isn't really going to get better. And the only thing that's going to drive recruitment is going to be when the economy takes a shit, because that's what always drives it. And folks are going to be joining through gritted teeth at that point, but they're going to join because they don't have any jobs. That's really it. And if you're military, if you think having a standing army and having a standing military is important, is crucial to your republic, your democracy, whatever you say, and that military can only recruit when your economy is in crisis, that kind of says more about the nature of your country than I think you want it to.
Yep. It's all shit. And really it's gonna come down to the only people that want to join after a while. Like, if we continue to have a good economy, and if we ever get some kind of universal health care and a place where public education and the college level is free, or at least vastly reduced in price, the only people that you're going to have that want to join the army are people who literally want to go to war. And those are people I don't want in the army. I don't want people who are excited about the prospect of killing somebody, because that's fucked up. That's like psychopath behavior. I don't want to be a part of that. I don't want anybody to kill anybody ever. Maybe I'm a bit of a pacifist that way. I think killing's bad. However, if, like you said, if there's no other recourse, then people will join. And that's just a sad way of doing this. So I don't know, man. it's I'm interested and horrified to see what things are going to look like in 25 years. Just the way because like politically things will not be the same after this presidency. Whether we get 4 or 8 years, nothing will be the same. Like I don't see Republicans slowing down or bringing down the rhetoric or being less openly racist. I don't think Democrats will ever properly fight against Republicans. I believe that they will always come to the table, already negotiating themselves down, and then get destroyed by the Republicans. And then you've got this growing leftist movement, which is nice that it's slowly starting to creep into the Democratic Party, but at the same time, the American leftist movement is very small. It's and as we see, Democrats kind of hate leftists more than
they hate us very much. Yeah, they do.
Because
they love their Republican colleagues who are always trying to do the right thing before being racist and doing the wrong thing, but they hate us because we're whiny babies.
Right. Republicans don't yell at them like we do. Like we'll yell at them. We'll say, "What the fuck's the matter with you? Will you please stop letting us die on the streets?" And then
Republicans will be like, "These are my colleagues. By the way, George Soros gives them money to subvert white manhood,"
Right.
and they'll just, and then when Republican voters and followers hear that message and respond by committing acts of violence, they'll just have a bipartisan prayer circle together.
Yep, and you'll get Ben Shapiro and all the online pundits who will come out and be like, "Look, just because we said all those racist things, and just because I said that if they start teaching sexual education and education about homosexual people in school, I will go get a gun." Something that Ben Shapiro has said. That's just freedom of speech. You can't yell at me because I am doing something to ratchet up violence because I didn't do anything. I just said words, and words aren't violence. But obviously, like, ask them about like, well, I guess you're cool with ISIS then, until they blow. It's cool to be part of the caliphate, but until you blow something up, then that's just wrong. Otherwise you're just a devout Muslim, right? So I don't know, man. It's all fucked.
It's all fucked, yeah. But anyway, I wanted to give you a chance to plug this week's bonus, Francis.
Yes. So I finally got around to doing some video. I've been putting it off because, again, still in the middle of this fucking move. But I did a video for the Patreons only. So you do have to be. It's on YouTube, but it's unlisted. So you got to be a part of the Patreon to get that link to get onto it. The $3 are up. But basically, I walked through my hydroponic setup. For those of you government who are listening, it is not weed. It is, at the moment, just basil that I have growing in my aquaponics. But I kind of walked through my setup, how everything works, my process when I have all of my hydroponic stuff set up, my plans for the future to vastly expand my indoor grows, because I like to grow during the winter because I am a gardener at heart, so I don't like it when the ground gets cold and I can't do anything. I want to keep growing so you can grow inside, and I kind of show how to do that. So that's a video that's up for the Patreon people, and that is patreon.com/hellofaWayToDie. Otherwise, we are still accepting zine submissions. I have one submission, and then I have my own, and then I'm going to bug a bunch of other people about it. But that is on the website as well. The zine, if you go to Hell of a Way to Die, you will find there's a link on there that just talks about the zine submission guidelines, 500 to 750 words. This time around, it's about work. Keep in mind, if you're a part of the $10 tier, then you will get not only a hard copy of the zine, but I always get stickers printed. We do a patch every quarter. Like, I guess that's just going to be our thing, is just always doing patches. We sell them online as well. We have a very small selection now, but we are growing it up. So just keep an eye out for that. If you want to submit anything, you can always contact me on Twitter at ArmyStrang, or you can email us at sergeantjoker@hellofawaytodie.com, and just send it along, and we'll put it in. And I'm going to start saying, if you submit to the zine and you're not part of the $10 level, let me know, and I'll get you, the care package and everything. So so you can get the patches and the stickers and see yourself in print as well. But other than that, you can follow me at Army Strang, follow Nate at In These Deserts, follow us on YouTube, follow us on Facebook, Hell of a Way on Twitter, and I've got this week, Nate, we're gonna have to record our Rambo episode for the bonus. So
all right, we'll do this shit.
We'll put that aside. I wrote like 1,300 words on Rambo for
no.
yeah. Look, it has been fucking racked in my brain weirdly for some reason. So we're gonna next week for the bonus. I'm going to basically sit and talk about Rambo while Nate goes, "Wow, what the fuck? What's the matter with you, Francis?" So look forward to that.
Otherwise, we will talk to you later and have a good one.
Zoom, zoom.